Familiar names, which is awesome. Today is going to be our full-time creative careers day. We got a great lineup today. We are starting with Xkyler. Xkyler is a LA creative who recently made her creative work her full-time job, which is crazy because the last time we saw each other was right when that was kind of happening. And Xkyler was able to combine her skills with photography and graphic design to make really unique and just like cool stuff. Now she's working with other clients, but she's been able to build up a really impressive portfolio of self-portraits as well, where she does everything from building the set to styling herself. And so today she'll be kind of leading a workshop on how she does all this and how to create at home. And I just want to plug her TikTok as well, because I've been seeing all of her TikToks too, and she does a lot of cool BTS stuff. So if you want to know how to create fire stuff at home, tune in now.
Hey, sweet. Hi guys, I'm Xkyler. I'm just gonna try to present, to share. I don't know how exactly to do that. Just give me 1 second. But yeah, thank you for the amazing introduction. I'm honored to be here. Just let me set this up, screen mode, and then we can get started. Okay. I think this is the one. Let me know if this works for you. Hold on. Can you guys see the?
It's loading.
Okay. Is it the presentation?
It's still loading on my end.
Yeah, it's loading
maybe
on
try
my end.
unsharing and then resharing again real quick.
Okay. Cool. Maybe I could just, I also have a PDF option, which might be easier than just the.
Yeah, because it just says that you've started screen sharing, but it's not actually sharing your screen.
What? That's so annoying.
Zoom.
Okay, so
it's easier if you need to send it to me and I can share it, whatever's easiest.
I'm gonna do a new share. Then I'm gonna try to do the preview file.
There we go. We see it.
Okay.
I love it.
We love it. Okay, cool. Now I just want to see you guys that I can't see now, which is frustrating. But I'll just start talking for a bit. Hold on. Let me just try to find you guys. Sorry about this. Okay, sick. Can see you guys. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Xkyler. Again, thank you for the amazing introduction. I am a multimedia creative. I just genuinely love creating. Like, it's become an obsession of mine. I started basically making music. I was starting making music about like 5 years ago, and I was working with other producers and other graphic artists. And can you guys hear me? Is everything okay? Okay. So I started working with other graphic designers and graphic artists and producers. And I think as a woman, especially, like, I just kept running into this challenge where people were telling me what I needed to do and who I needed to be, what I needed to look like and how I needed to present myself. And it just got kind of exhausting. And I would constantly have to like come to a session with someone and try to direct them completely and just try to tell them what I wanted and what my vision was. And they just wouldn't listen to me. And so I kind of took matters into my own hands. I was a science major. And so I'd spend a lot of time in the library studying. And during the studying process, I kind of just got like very into Photoshop and Logic. And I just downloaded those softwares and started learning myself. And I use YouTube as a way to learn. And it kind of just became a space for me to like express myself. And I realized that with music, I needed to put myself out there on social media. And I realized that I could post really interesting photos and kind of grow an audience through that. And so I started taking my photos and like overlaying them with cool, like microscopic, like bacteria images. It was super weird of me. But I just had a lot of fun with it and kind of started expressing myself in that way. And basically after college, I realized that I didn't want to pursue science. I wanted to keep being a creative and keep doing music. And I got a job from my Instagram working at this company called Unum, which was a great company. They basically do content creation and Instagram planning tools. And so I started working for them. I started running their Instagram, but again, ran into the problem where there's a lot of creative limitations, I think, when you're working for someone else and when you're trying to execute a vision for someone else. And that's fine. But I think a lot of the times it's not really that great to hold ourselves back creatively and often feel judged. And so I started working in content creation doing that. And then during quarantine, I had all this time and I knew I wanted to do creative direction for other artists. I had all these other ideas I wanted to execute. And I started just realizing that I could do it on my own. And there was almost this veil that was removed with the judgment of taking your own photos with quarantine, you know? Because I feel like before there was almost this like judgment of telling people that you took all your own photos. Because I used to do all my own edits. Like the one on the left is a photo I took of myself, and so is the one on the right. And basically, when it started, I just realized I could do self-portraits on my own, and it was completely accepted because there's no other way to make content. And so every Wednesday I set a goal for myself and I said, you're going to make a photo and it doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter if the concept's fully executed, whatever it is, you're going to post a photo that day and you're going to take it yourself. And so it would come to like Tuesday night and I'd be on my parents and I'd just be like, oh my God, I have to take a photo. And I remember like just going outside with the tripod and taking photos of myself. And at first, like they didn't start that good, to be honest. Like the one on the left is one of the first ones I did. I remember I like wanted to go outside and see the sky and like take a photo from underneath, and it just ended up looking really bad. So I over edited it as like a way to hide almost the photo just because I didn't feel confident about it. But as times progress, like I feel like my photos have gotten so much stronger. And also I think the power in taking a photo is almost in increasing your confidence. Like doing photos for myself has just given me so much more confidence in who I am as a person, in what I look like, fully accepting myself and accepting all sides of yourself. I think when you have other people creating content for you, you feel like you have to be a certain version of yourself to fit their mold of what they expect. And I think when you're taking photos of yourself, you almost only have the reflection of yourself to judge you. And honestly, I've become a lot more open of a person during this experience because I've realized I can't judge myself. You know, I have to just let myself be free. And that's the only way that I'm going to create the content that I want to. And also just create images that are more striking and feel like more of a reflection of myself. And honestly, having fun with it. Like, I feel like I'm a kid half the time buying props. I feel like the rate limiting step for a lot of people is this fear of judgment, this fear of, well, how are people going to interpret me taking a photo of myself? What if it's not good enough? What if it doesn't look good? And a lack of quality, just because I think a lot of times we may not have the equipment that we might need. But I'm going to talk you through like what I used when I started, and also how to basically get gear that's not that expensive and just alternatives to lighting and other solutions. And then the struggle with knowing how to execute ideas, and also the power in setting deadlines. I think setting deadlines is the most important thing you can do for yourself. I think that if you have a deadline, even if your photo is not the best that it could be, like even if your song is not the best it can be, that's something I struggle with music, is I always feel like I could do better. And you always can feel like you can re-edit something and make it better. But at the end of the day, the more important aspect is the creative process and getting better and more confident and just executing and executing. And the more you execute, the better you get. And the more you learn from your past mistakes. And yeah, so basically I'd love to go around, like I know there are people here, not everyone's showing their faces, but I'd love to go around and just hear like about yourself, like what you want to create, what holds you back mostly when you're creating content for yourself. And yeah, just ask me any questions, like the things that hold you back. So if anyone wants to speak, let me know.
If you guys want to come off mute or type in the chat, whatever you're more comfortable with.
Let me see how I can.
I'll introduce myself.
Cool. Sick.
Hi, my name's Anna. I'm actually the art director for Unpublished. And I'm so excited about this. I also do photography. That's like mostly what I'm doing. And I just moved to New York. And I think for me, I'm also wanting to pursue like this creative career. And the hardest thing for sure has been, and I'm really excited that you're gonna talk about it, is like feeling limited in like the quality of what I can make, because I feel like I don't have access to all the equipment that makes this like perfect shot. And like, you know, like right now being broke and in a pandemic, I'm like, you know, like what can I afford? What can like I do to get away with or like be creative? And so it's definitely feeling like limited and like what my creativity can do just based off of what I have access to, you know?
Yeah, totally. Sweet. We'll go over that. I feel like the biggest, yeah, I completely understand. Anyone else?
I can go.
Sweet.
I'm Leah. I am a writer, and I think like the biggest thing that really sets me back is like time, because I'm a student and I work like a decent amount of hours every week, like more than most part-time workers. And so I have all these ideas for like multimedia projects, but then I come down to it and I'm like, oh my God, like I don't have the time to execute this.
Yeah, totally. Scheduling is so hard when you're busy. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. My name is Jordan. I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, and you kind of touched on this already, but my biggest challenge right now is like feeling like a song or a project that I'm working on is like done and at the best it's like ability. Cause obviously like anything creative, like you can always like take it a step further. You can always like keep working on it, but like figuring out when, okay, like this is done, like this is my best work. Like it's not going to get much better than this. So that's something that I'm often struggling with a lot of projects.
Yeah, totally.
I think I really relate to what Leah was saying, like as a full-time student, it's hard to like set aside time to be creative. Because it doesn't always being creative is not always convenient for a schedule is one thing that I struggle with a lot.
Yeah. Anyone else? And then I can.
Hi, my name's Jamie. So my issue, I'm a musician. I don't know, I've done music my whole life and I've just started to try it again. I stopped for like 7 years because I realized, you know, I studied music and I realized that you couldn't really get anywhere. I'm from South Africa, so I'm a little bit limited by my geography. So I wanted to, you know, do music, but I didn't want to be with a label because I didn't like I don't know, I felt like my creativity with what I wanted to do with me as a brand wouldn't be taken out of my hands. And then my cousin started releasing music on DistroKid. So I was like, okay, well, I have to do this now. And I found my old demos, and my issue now that I'm dealing with is that I don't know how to master them. So I have a friend that's, he's a producer, but he's not really been helpful. So my issue is like, I'm kind of like, you know, you want to do the indie route, but I mean, how do you do everything by yourself? So I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and all I want to do is just get, you know, like one track out there. But I guess, I don't know, I'll figure it out, I guess.
Send me a DM after and I can give you advice on like mastering and stuff. Cause like for me personally, like, I don't know who knows me personally, but like I do every aspect of my music. So like I produce, mix, master, do all the cover art, I do all the marketing stuff. And so I can totally give you advice on that. And like,
thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Cause it's overwhelming. There's not that many resources available. And I think the whole process can seem so daunting, I think, with creating, just because there's so much you want to do and you feel like you need to. And setting expectations for ourselves can sometimes be our downfall, but just realizing it's a growing process and just not limiting the output. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
You can see the chat. We do have some in the chat. We have Ashley. She's working from home, so that's why her webcam is off. My name is Ashley. I really like styling, and I'm hoping to pursue a career as a fashion stylist. The biggest thing holding me back is both feeling like I don't have enough time, as well as aiming for too much for perfection. And we have some agreeing about the full-time student problem. Always tired and too busy to create, not feeling like my work is quite good enough to stand out.
Yeah, I feel, also, hi, Ashley. I know Ashley. Yeah, so I will just talk about those things really quickly first. I think so there's this quote, does anyone know who, oh my God, what's his name? I'll think of it later, but there's this artist who I know, and he's really successful, and he was winning a Grammy. He does everything himself. And he basically said, it's like growing up in my family, no one ever validated the product. It was always about, did you have fun while you were creating? Did you enjoy yourself? It's not about the end result. And I think once we separate from the end result, I think it's a lot easier to accept ourselves and almost allow ourselves to continue creating and continue improving. And I think it's a lot easier to focus on the process. I think sometimes the product feels like the most tangible thing, you know, that's the thing that people judge. And so that's the thing that we feel like will give us, just make us feel accepted, you know? But I've noticed that the more I've focused on the process for my own self and my creativity, I've just noticed myself getting better and other people caring a lot more about the music I create and the work that I create. And I think time is so hard too. Like I also struggle with this. I just started taking a lot more client work. So I just transitioned to being freelance. I was working a job, and it's hard balancing your own passion and other people's passion, especially when you're doing creative projects. And it's, I think, difficult to manage time. I don't think there's any perfect result to that, especially I was a full-time student too. I was pre-med in college and I needed to balance it. For me, creating was an outlet. Like it was the only way I felt like I could stay sane. I've always had really bad anxiety. And it, like, I remember I used to have to do Photoshop and edits in order to make myself calm down and just to really like not get too stressed about school. So I think maybe just like approaching it with, okay, this is how I'm doing self-care. This is how I'm taking care of myself right now. And setting an hour, 10 minutes even of being creative can make such a difference in your life. And it doesn't have to be this huge goal of like, oh, I want to make this music video or I want to make this project that's 10 different scenes and everything. Just focus on one step at a time. How can you break it up into smaller projects? How can you break it up into things that are easily achievable, you know? And for me, I did a music video and I broke it up into scenes and I separated it along a month, and every week I shot one scene, and it took me an hour. And I think just making it so that it can fit in your schedule and not getting too overwhelmed by just the end result, you know, and just thinking of it step by step. For specifically when it comes to photography, I want to just talk about my creative process, how I come up with concepts, how I execute ideas, my process, and how I really feel like you can create without needing a big budget. So how I personally find inspiration is I love just like going to flea markets and going online and hunting for things and like building a shoot around a single concept. So if you're an artist, musician, the way I started was I would kind of have a song idea, or I would have a song and I'd be, oh, I need to make cover art for this song. So I'd do a photo shoot around what concept I thought the song would be. Now that I do these like self-portraits, every once in a while I come up with like an aesthetic, or I find an item in my house that I'm like, oh, this would be fun to do a shoot with. My recent shoot I did, I like got these nails that were all like wavy, and I thought they were super cool. So I like did this design and I just like made these wavy things and built a shoot around that. So I thought I would, and then execution, just what kind of equipment do you need? What kind of camera do you need? Your lighting setup? How are you going to execute it? You know, how much time are you going to give yourself? And the post editing, which is Photoshop, Lightroom, PixArt. Don't know what editing platforms you guys use. I love using Photoshop, but there's so many alternatives that are cheap and free, and I will recommend a few to you. So how to find inspiration. I usually build a shoot around an object or a theme, as you can see in the photos to my side. I did this weird thing on Instagram where I was like, hey, tell me an aesthetic and I'll build a shoot around it. And so the one in the middle and the one on the bottom are like the Y2K, and I did like a retrofuturism shoot. And so those are the result. And then the other ones, I just like found this dress that had circles on it. So I painted a backdrop with circles. And then I found like a checkered shirt and I just made a whole checkered room. And all the props I get are on Amazon or like around my house. I probably have never spent over like, I think my cap is like $50 on a shoot, just because I've spent more on a shoot, but I try to keep it really low budget just because I'm also self-sufficient and money's not like a abundant resource all the time, but I think you can really make a cool concept on a really good budget. And so I thought it would be a fun idea for like 5 minutes if everyone could like go around their house and find an item that like they could build a shoot around, and like something that like inspires them, like whether it be a clothing item or a piece of jewelry or something that like feels like it can be the centerpiece. That way you have some type of focus. And so I'm just going to give you a little bit, and if you guys could go around and like find an item, that would be cool. And I'm going to do it with you. So I'm going to hunt for an item too, and I have not prepared for this. So we're going to figure it out. Okay? I'm going to give us like, oh shoot, we're going quick. Sorry, I'm spending a lot of time. I'm just going to do like 2 minutes. Quick. Finding an item. I'll be right back. So did anyone find an item? We're only going to do like one sharing because I think I took too much time. But if you guys could show me your items. Yes, we love the disco ball. Yes, the base, yo. I already see the base photo shoot. You got to do like a blue background, man, with that base. That's sick. We love it. We love it.
Someone in the chat said they found an old iPod.
Yes, I love that. Like a super retro shoot. I grabbed like this random chandelier I have and a lava lamp. So I think like I could do a gothic shoot with this. This is definitely a prop I already have since Valentine's Day is coming up. So I'm just gonna walk you through. I'm gonna go pretty quickly now because I think I'm known to talk. But so this is just how I make a mood board. So now that you have an item, I think it's a really good idea to just like build a visual palette for it. I don't usually always do this, but I think it's really helpful to just consistently be looking for inspiration. So I usually separate my mood boards into 2 things. I either have one that's super focused, like for a music video I was doing, which was Ooh, I Love It. I had this very clear concept of like, I wanted a chair, a white background, and the one on the left is me, and I feel like I executed it pretty well. And then I usually have like a 2021 or general inspiration board. And I think if you're struggling to find your visual identity as a creative, it's really helpful to have a board like this. That way you can just like hone in on what you want to create and just constantly be thinking of ideas and be in the headspace of being like, oh, whoa, I want to create an image like that, or I want to do something like this artist. I think it's really easy to just feel like you're not doing enough, or like your photos aren't going to be as good as those people, but instead like maybe turn it around and be like, I want to be inspired by those people. I want to make art like this one day. So the 3 things I feel like are necessary is a camera and a tripod. So a setup, lighting equipment, and a scene. This is my standard, like if you don't have any equipment, what I feel like you should do. All my photos until like very recently, like I just got a nice camera 3 months ago, but like a lot of the photos I showed you were taken on my phone. And I use this app called Fuji Camera, and it's just like shoots kind of like a film camera. I'm sure people have used it. It's free. I just set it on on a tripod and did a self timer and shot with that. And I think there's so much you can do with those edits, and they look really good. Personally, I like am always floored when I take photos with that app, just because I think it looks really cool and interesting. And we're also in an era now where like lo-fi is kind of cool. So it's like, okay. And so I recommend that if you don't have that or a tripod, you can use a stand or a chair. I also think there's other cheap alternatives. I love VHS cameras. That's like my go-to when it comes to filming content for myself. There's this amazing band called Magdalena Bay that like shoots all their music videos on VHS and do all the effects in post. Recently got like a kid's camera. There's so many cameras online that are really affordable. And for lighting, this is like a hack that I feel like no one talks about. There are these things called floodlights that are like for your garden, and they're so bright. They're like $20 each, and they're so bright. And I have a couple and I use them to light everything. Like I didn't spend money on lighting until kind of recently. Like I bought softbox lights for like $100, but these floodlights are great. Like if you really don't have a budget for lighting, I highly, highly recommend them. And I can, if you DM me, I'll like send you Amazon links to look them up. There's also LED lights that you can get on Amazon. There are 2 of them. They're super small. They can fit in your pocket. They can do every single color, and they're $100. So I think lighting oftentimes feels like this overwhelming thing, like, oh, I don't have the lighting that I need. But I feel like there are definitely options out there for lighting. And for setting a scene, I think honestly, all you need is a white wall. This isn't white because I painted it, and using a sheet. And also thinking to yourself, okay, the vibe that I created, how can I execute a scene that would fit that energy? And I think oftentimes like that can be the thing that holds us back, is creating a scene. And I've really loved Photoshop because I feel like it's given me the ability to create whatever world I want to by just cutting myself out of Photoshop and creating whatever background I wanted to. So just honestly finding a place where there's not many people, setting up your tripod in your room it opens up a whole world of possibility. So also outdoor shoots. I know sometimes it's embarrassing to shoot yourself by yourself outside, but I think you can definitely get creative with making a scene for yourself and really stay on budget. Like it's so much fun. So some tips to remember when you're working is don't judge yourself. I know it's so hard to, especially I think as you're taking a photo, you look at all the photos and you're like, oh my God, I look terrible and they're bad. But like, just let yourself take as many photos as you can and don't look at them until you're done. And don't judge yourself while you're in the process of creating. Like, let yourself have fun, let yourself feel, let yourself express yourself, enjoy it, because this is really cool what we're doing. There's so many other things that we could be doing with our time. And if you have the time to create, like, be grateful for it. I am grateful for every second I have to create, because I honestly didn't think I was going to be doing this with my life, so just enjoy the process and be patient with yourself. Set time limits. That way you don't take pictures for like 5 hours and then have no time to edit. And yeah, have as much fun as possible. And then when it comes to editing and finish, I think it's really important to set a deadline. Again, I like to set deadlines. I never like to edit my photos for more than 48 hours. And then I think also TikTok is a freaking amazing platform to learn things. Like I've learned so much on TikTok. There's this one Photoshop technique on TikTok to like cut out subjects that I didn't know existed and has saved me hours of time. So just like learn, like get on the For You page of TikTok, of the world of like people to treat like creating content, and it's super helpful. And also use references of photos to get better at editing. I usually like will pull up a photo of my favorite photographer, pull up that Pinterest board I made and just compare images and see how they're editing, fix things until I get it to the same way. And that way I kind of get my eye better and get improved. It's like you do that with a song, you use a reference mix or you use a reference track. And I think a lot of people don't think of that with photos. So I definitely think a reference can help. And yeah, just start creating. So I know I went over time and I'm sorry, but I love hearing about your guys's, what you do. And if you have any questions for me, we can let me know. I'd love to answer them. And also I love helping people in anything they do, just because I've really spent a lot of time learning how to create content on my own and would just like love to help you. So if you want to send me a DM, please do. And also I want you to take photos with the items and the concepts. So please do that. And please, please, please send them to me. Like I would love for you to send me all your photos and I would share them and just be honored, and would love to create a community of people just like making shit on their own, being empowering. And yeah. So yeah, let me know.
Yay. Thank you so much, Xkyler. Yeah, just because of timing, I was going to say, just because you mentioned it, you guys reach out to Xkyler, like DM her, like please, 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 like she's a resource. And as you just said, like she's more than happy to help. I can type your Insta in the chat. Like, please feel free. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Yeah. Please feel free to reach out to her, just because we are a little bit short on time. So we're gonna, I know we kind of addressed a lot of questions as we went along. So thank you so much. This was amazing as always. You know, I love you. You know, I adore your work. And thank you everyone for like sharing and being so engaged in this. I really appreciate that. And we're gonna move to our next guest as well. Becca, if you want to, or thank you again, Xkyler.
Honored. I'm genuinely so honored to be a part of this.
Oh, our pleasure.